Nurses, what's the biggest operating room disaster you've ever witnessed? Our whole nursing team was scrubbing in when Dr. Okafor stumbled through the door. His eyes couldn't focus and he reeked of alcohol. This was our lead surgeon, the man scheduled to perform open heart surgery on a 12-year-old girl in 20 minutes. I watched all the other nurses keep their heads down and just stare at the floor. Nobody wanted to acknowledge what we were seeing, but I couldn't stand it. I stripped off my gloves and rushed out to find Dr. Nakamura, our chief medical officer. She and Okafor went way back to med school. Their families vacationed together every summer. Doctor, Okafor is intoxicated, I told her. He can't operate on that little girl. Nakamura didn't even bother looking up from her computer. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I can smell it on him. His hands are shaking. Please, just come see for yourself. She leaned back in her chair and literally smiled. Doctor, Okafor brings in millions of dollars a year to this hospital. Why would I risk that? Her voice turned cold. Besides, this is just clearly petty revenge. Everyone knows you've had it out for him since that little incident last year. My stomach dropped. You see, last year, Okafor had cornered me in the supply closet after a late surgery. He'd pressed himself against me and backed me into the shelves, then tried to kiss me. When I pushed him away and told him I'd report him, he stroked my hair, then left. The next day, the entire hospital was buzzing with rumors about how I'd thrown myself at him, and he had to gently turn me down because he was married. Get back to that OR right now, Nakamura ordered. And if you spread these lies to anyone else, I'll make sure you never work in healthcare again. I returned to find the anesthesiologist, Dr. Yamoto, already prepping the patient. She caught my eye and I saw that she knew. She'd positioned herself to steady Okafor's elbow as he approached the table. During the timeout before surgery began, I made one last attempt. I pulled her aside. I begged her to help me stop this surgery, to save this child's life. But then I noticed something that made my world stop. She had an engagement ring on her finger. It was the engagement ring Okafor's wife had worn for 20 years before she left him after I told her what Okafor did to me. Dr. Yamoto told me that she knew this wasn't right, but she was his fiancé. And what kind of fiancé would she be if she ruined his career? We went back to the operating room, where I watched her hands shake as she prepared another syringe of medication. That's when I realized she was also medicating Okafor right there in the OR, microdosing benzos into his IV port to try to steady his hands just enough to operate. She kissed her fingers and pressed them to his shoulder before returning to her station. The surgery began minutes later. Of course, Okafor's hands trembled as he made the initial incision. Yamoto kept touching his arm to steady him, and the other surgeon assisting pretended not to notice when Okafor dropped an instrument. At one point, Okafor actually laughed and said, "Whoops, butterfingers today," like he was dropping car keys instead of surgical instruments inside a child's chest cavity. Everything fell apart during the grafting. His impaired motor control caused him to nick the left anterior descending artery. Blood flooded the field instantly. "Clamp! Clamp!" the assisting surgeon shouted, pushing Okafor aside to take over, but Okafor pushed back. "I've got it! I've got it!" He was still trying to operate while the child bled out. The room erupted in chaos. More surgeons rushed in. Units of blood arrived. The perfusionist worked frantically to keep the bypass machine functioning while they tried to repair the damage. I remember locking eyes with the child's mother in the observation window. Her face had gone white with horror. Tears were streaming down her face as she watched her daughter's blood pool on the floor. We managed to save the little girl, but barely. She'd need a heart transplant now. The damage was too severe. What should have been a routine repair became a death sentence. After we closed, Nakamura herself came to the OR. She actually patted Okafor on the back. "Tough case. These things happen. We'll handle the family." Then she turned to all of us. "I don't need to remind you about confidentiality. We stand together or we fall apart. Anyone who suggests this was anything other than an unforeseeable complication will face immediate termination and legal action." Just like that, we were all ushered out. I remember pure rage overcame me because of how unfair this was. But then the next morning, something happened. Multiple lawyers arrived at the hospital. They served Okafor in the parking lot. Nakamura got served during morning rounds. Yamoto in the cafeteria. I got served papers too, but mine were different. They came with a handwritten note. "Thank you for trying. Please be my star witness." I asked around confused about where these papers came from. I couldn't understand it. But then I got my answer, and a crazy, childlike glee came over me. Turns out the child's mother, the woman in the observatory room, wasn't just a regular person. She was a senior partner at the biggest medical malpractice firm in the state, and she was ready to make our hospital pay. Full story on channel link below.